Hello, my name is Pamela Penaloza, and I will be presenting the use and impact of decision support systems within a banking industry. An overview of what I'll be talking. First, I'm going to talk about the brief history of banks' use of data, basically how the collection of data has evolved over the time. Then I'm going to talk about data mining, which is a type of model that is very important for the decision support system, and then about the impact of a decision support systems within the banking industry. I'm going to talk some of the advantages, and then I'm going to finish with some of the gaps in a decision support systems within the banking industry. So a little bit about the history. It's not new how banks have always been trusted with a lot of information. However, in the past, there are some things that were more important. For example, cash, and also there were some ledger cards and handwritten books that kept track of the accounts. Also, people use the same local bank for their mortgage, for their checking account, and also maybe for their investment portfolios. Bankers in the past tended to know their clients, which allow them to know their people's finances. Therefore, like in the past, the bank's use of data was more focusing to creating profiles of people and looking at their clients' history, which is really different in how nowadays banks use data more to predict, not to look into the past. Since 1990s, the whole concept of banking has changed to centralized databases, to online transactions, and ATMs all over the world, which has made the banking system technically strong and more customer oriented. So as I was explaining, in the present, banks use data more to predict. How also nowadays we have a 24/7 banking through mobile devices, through apps where we can check our account, where we can set limits. So the use of data within the banking industry has changed a lot. Now I'm going to talk about the collection of data. So banks are capturing and storing data at huge amounts of levels of volume, velocity, and variety. Therefore, with the evolution of the internet, it started to become way easier for the banks to collect that data. Uh, Banks use data for different reasons. For example, I'm going to talk about the customer segmentation, which basically is based on the data that about previous purchases and activities. Banks can go look into what customers need. For example, the investment products and insurance coverage, type of check-ins and saving accounts, types of mortgage and other banking products. Also, the bank use of data. Banks use data to identify some security risks. So as nowadays, the bank can you can set a limit to when like there's more spending than $500, or you can receive a call from the bank asking to check some of the recent charges. Also, banks use data to low investment risks, which is basically to determine which investments are more likely to produce a return versus those how can end up costing the investors, and to develop new financial products. Basically, banks aim to give the best experience to their customers, which requires them to have a fast and direct access to different data across different systems. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of a DSS. So, as we know, the purpose of a decision support system is to transform the data into information that can help decision making, transform the data into knowledge. So, Lunendog 2019 explains how a DSS in bank is essential as it is a crucial step in developing the future of all banking industries, and how the collection of data can help bank industries understand the needs and expectations of people. Basically, banks need to establish a DSS because the number of clients keeps increasing and they're being entrusted with a lot of information in their system that has to be safely and accessible very quickly. Uh, Also, it is important to have a DSS within a banking industry because collecting data can bring many problems, such as invalid data, redundancy, incomplete data, and all of that can lead to some incorrect results on decision making. Now I'm going to talk about data mining. So banks started to upgrade from management instinctive decisions to mining of data. So data mining is a type of model that is important to decision support systems. And data mining extends the possibilities for decision support by discovering patterns and relationships hidden in the data, and therefore enabling an inductive approach to data analysis. Data mining focuses on discovering information correlations by extracting and analyzing trends and patterns in big amounts of data stored in databases or repositories. An example of data mining within the bank industry is how executives can predict with increased accuracy how customers will react to adjustment in interest, which customers will be likely to accept new product offers, which customers will be at a higher risk for defaulting on a loan, or how to make each customer relationship more profitable. Some of the data mining techniques includes association, classification, clustering, prediction, sequential patterns, and regression, among others. In general, the main idea is to find patterns which banks could exploit this to improve their industry. So an example can be banks could detect some fraud or credit risk applications thanks to this data modeling. Now I'm going to talk about the impact of a decision support systems. There is an impact of a decision support systems within the bank industry, as these industries has experienced big changes in the way the business works. So with all the new innovations of electronic banking and the way bank captures transactional data has become easier. Therefore, the amount of data banks collect has grown significantly, which is beyond human capabilities to analyze this huge amount of raw data to effectively transform the data into useful knowledge for the organization. Banking, also some of the different industries such as banking, insurance, healthcare, among others, they have increasingly used data mining in order to deeply know and operate their businesses. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about some benefits and advantages of a DSS. So if banks use data mining, they could start predicting and increasing accuracy in different areas. Also, banks can have, it is not new how banks have one of the largest customer information since they have customer demographics, transactional data, credit cards usage patterns, among many others. Therefore, if bank can recognize the efficacy of data mining for their decision-making development, they will have an advantage and competitive lead in the future. So therefore, DSS can help bank industry in all of these different ways. So for time saving, for better control risk, for higher satisfaction for customers and bank staff, for to bring more competitive in the market, and to have a better interpersonal communication. And finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different banks, the gaps that a banking industry can have within a decision support system. So even though data provides access to information that can help decision making, users can get lost in a different possibilities of investigation. So for banks, the challenge comes when the speed at which change is occurring in the banking sector. So as I was explaining, nowadays, all the evolving of the internet and technology keeps going so fast that sometimes industries cannot catch up. Another gap can be a cognitive limits, which is basically the managers or the other decision makers have different levels of background, so their personal experience can affect the results of their final decisions. Another one is the power transfer and responsibility. So basically, people may deflect personal responsibility to a system, but what should actually notice is that the decision support system is the intermediary between the people who build the system and the people who use the system. They're designed to support the people in making decisions. So people make bad decisions, not the system. And the last one, it's information overload, which is a great quantity, which explains the great quantity of information troubles decision makers and many DSS in banks. Decision support system is designed to manage information for users. However, if DSAs in banks provides too much information, it can make it harder for higher level staff to make a decision. And loss of ability in making judgments. So basically, this one explains is how there is a tendency to accept solutions just because the computer says so. So after bringing a DSS, it can reduce the skill needed to perform a decision on a task and make the executive get into the habit of relying on the decision support system and not making the actual decision. Now, so to conclude, decision support systems, it can help the main goal of any industry's intelligence, which is basically to analyze historical patterns and performances to then be able to predict the future and improve the organization's response to future events. Also, that is one of the most valuable resources for any bank. However, this is true only if this chosen industry recognizes how to analyze this knowledge hidden in the raw data. DSS can also help banks industry with different things like time saving, better control risk, higher satisfaction from customers and bank staff, more competitive in the market, better interpersonal communication. And finally, data mining is a type model that is important in decision support systems as it allows optimizing industry decisions, increasing the value of each customer and communication, and improving customer satisfaction. Here is my works cited, and thank you for listening.